Thank you both for making it. So I have your blurbs pulled up, all the information that you guys sent to me ahead of time. Most of the questions we're gonna, so the way that this is gonna go while Julie's doing what she's doing, um, start out is just gonna be introductions of everybody, basic stuff. I'll go over and introduce you guys using the information you've provided me on the side here. And then once we're done with that, we'll get into the wild and chaotic questions. I have a list of 100 questions that we can randomly, pick from. Um, some of them are really off the wall. Some of them are pretty are I won't say in line with what you would expect, but they are nearer to that. We really tried to avoid the standard like, what advice do you have for upcoming, artists starting out, that kind of stuff. Everyone's heard those questions and those answers, so we already have people popping in, so excellent. Apparently, I'm not all that far from. Oh, I'm getting my blurbs mixed up now. I'm not all that far from you, Rick. I'm in, yeah, you're in North Carolina, so. I'm in the very, like, far right corner of eastern Tennessee. I'm, like, I'm, like, 45 minutes north of Asheville. I'll have to tell Izzy to delete that message later, because this side chat is just supposed to be for other info. It's okay. I'll get her to delete it later. All right. We'll give it 2 more minutes. That'll be 5 minutes of prep time. Oh, you can hear us. That's awesome. I guess we're going live now. Welcome to the scuff, everybody. Hey, Izzy, since you heard that, thank you for deleting your message. Welcome, everybody, to the first official Hold My Pen Promcast author interview live on stream. It is our charm to have the scuff. As you can see from our brand new setup we got going on here, this is how everything's going to be going down on Friday nights. I will be your host, Styx. Tonight I have Julie assisting me with the interviews of our two. I got to get my left and right on my cameras, so if you guys see me, like, okay. Our two first time author interview guests, we have Scott Pearson or Pearson. I didn't ask ahead of time. It's Pearson. I Safe guess, but you never know. And then we have R.D. Moreno. As you guys can see, their book covers are next to their cameras here, so you can see what their books are. Their name and social links are adjacent, or either above and below their images, so you guys can see those. Thank you all for being here. Thank our guests, you guys, for being here. So, we're happy that people said yes. Anything you want to say, Julie? Are we having volume issues with you, Julie? I can hear her fine. Can you guys hear her? Can you guys hear her? I'm doing the wrong thing. See, my chat's over here, but if I want to look at the actual chat on stream, it's over here. What do I do? And if I flip my camera around, I'm going to be all confused again. Also, cannot hear our guests. Okay. I know how to fix this. All right, go ahead and say something, you guys. Julie?
Testing.
Hello? Did
Oh,
you hear me?
Sound off.
ouch, you not that loud. Goodness, my
Sorry.
ears.
I know.
Okay.
There's a reason that Izzy has my mic like half.
You
I
guys
come in
still
very
aren't
loud.
able to hear them?
This is Scott. Can you hear me?
See, I thought I had it all set up.
Thought we were good.
Got Julie, got Scott. Okay. You got
Okay.
me. If you got those two, you should also have Rick because it's all coming through my headset. So as long as I can hear them, you should be able to hear them now.
Awesome.
Okay. Continue as you were saying, Julie. We got a hype train going on, or had one going on.
Yes. Got Rick. Okay, cool. What I was saying is this is, as Six said, this is our first interview of 2026. We always originally did interviews over TikTok. And if you would like to be a guest and be interviewed by us, please go down to the bottom to the link tree where the little Google Doc is and fill it out, and we will get back to you and get you scheduled to be on the show. But right now we are here with two amazing authors that I have briefly looked over your work. I have not read anything yet. Yes, you guys are the guinea pigs. But I have not read any of your work yet. I did realize though that Rick's stuff is actually on my TBR. Before I ever
Oh,
knew
nice.
Rick was, your stuff on my TBR. I think it was recommended to me by another TikToker. So that's probably how that ended up there. Which is
Okay.
great. It just I
Yeah,
haven't read.
awesome. No worries.
So we're gonna go ahead and start with Scott because he's in the upper box. Uh Scott, tell us a little bit about yourself and your book and how you got started in this wild west of writing.
Well, I've wanted to be a writer since I was in the 6th or 7th grade, and I'm now a full-time freelance writer and editor. Um, I make my living, such as it is, as an editor. I work for both traditional publishers and directly with authors who are going to self-publish. And I myself have been both traditionally published and I also self-publish things. I work primarily in the science fiction space, but I also have worked on horror and mystery novels, fantasy novels. Um, I proofread comic books for IDW. I've got my hands in all sorts of things. I kind of specialize in Star Trek. I've published Star Trek fiction. I'm an editor on the Star Trek novels. I'm an editor on the Star Trek Adventures role playing game. And in my proofreading for IDW, I do proofread their Star Trek series along with a variety of other series that they have going. And so I just do a little bit of everything.
So basically you took your passion and ran with it.
Yes, I did. I actually use my college degree. I got a creative writing degree in college, and so I'm one of those few people that actually ended up in the field of my degree.
Awesome sauce. All right, Rick, you're up.
Yeah. So for me, um, I had read Dune when I was in high school. Thought it was amazing. Thought it would be awesome to write something like that, but life just gets in the way. So I wasn't able to really sit down and do any writing until after COVID hit, and I was kind of pushed into retirement. I was already planning my exit strategy, but the company that I was working for decided that I needed to go a little earlier than I planned, which in the long run, they did me a huge favor. Um, but so after I finished remodeling the home that we were going to retire in, it was like, okay, what's next for me? And they had just re-released the movie Dune. So I watched it a couple of times and then things started percolating in my head. I put a list of characters together and a basic arc for the book. And 6 months later, I finished book to try and get published.
Yeah, that's basically how that one rolls out. It's like it's like, ooh, I have an idea.
Yep.
All right. That is amazing. I had a similar thing into writing. I've been doing it for quite some time. Uh, but I didn't seriously start taking it seriously until I lost my job. Due to COVID.
Mm,
So
right.
before we know it, it's like, oh wait a minute, now I have an actual book. Oh wait a minute, it's being published. Oh wait a minute, people know who I am. Like, what? So believe me, I understand all of that very, very well. Um,
Right.
so that
I
is our intro version. Um, Sticks, you want to start off with the questions or?
well, I actually have a follow up question for each of our guests
Okay.
based on their
Go ahead.
introductions here. So this is going to be the short one. So Scott, I heard Star Trek a lot. So how much Klingon can you speak fluently?
Really?
I can say "Nuchtach och Pushbaech," which means "Where is the bathroom?"
You know what?
Excellent.
That is an important question to know in any language. It is an international, interplanetary necessity.
For
Uh,
some reason, I mean, I never set out to learn Klingon, but in my work and working on the books and being a dedicated Star Trek fan, I read some of the books, the dictionaries and stuff, and that phrase just stuck in my head for the last couple of decades.
learning by osmosis there, yeah.
Awesome.
And Rick, your my
Yes.
follow up question for you was you said, excuse me, you said that your idea came shortly after the re-release of the Dune movie. Do you
Right.
do you normally pull your inspiration from popular media, or does it come from different avenues for you?
It comes from different avenues for me. And I had seen Forbidden Planet when I was a kid. And from that time on, it was like I was hooked on sci-fi. And so I would gobble up anything sci-fi. And my mom would read, when we were kids, would read um, Greek mythology. So that type of stuff she would read to us when we were kids. And then when I saw Jason and the Argonauts, okay, there that filled in the fantasy realm. So that kind of opened up my eyes to both sci-fi and fantasy. And so I just kind of gleaned anything that I could from there. Um,
we it's interesting that we just found out we don't live too far away because you just hit a lot of things that I also have similar passions in. Greek mythology and any of the ancient
Nice.
mythologies
Nice.
are huge for me.
Yeah.
So um,
Right.
I'm also a major sci-fi and fantasy guy, so you guys are both like I'm looking at these and I'm like, okay. My parents were hardcore Trekkies. I myself was not. I think the last thing I remember watching as a wee little child was the Borg cube exploding, and then I never saw it again
Okay.
afterwards. So, um,
I
but
have to say that I just picked up yesterday the newly released, re-recorded soundtrack to Jason and the Argonauts, composed by Bernard Herrmann. I'm a huge
Yeah.
Harryhausen fan.
Yeah, I was talking with somebody else, and they had mentioned the same thing that they saw the new version of it, said it was incredible, and with the fight with the skeletons was more realistic than in the original when you originally saw it because they cleaned it up quite a bit. So
Hmm.
I've been waiting to try and go see it.
all right. So, chat, you guys over there, past our authors here, we have a list of questions for our authors. They are very, very much in keeping with the Hold My Pen Promcast theme of insanity. So we have 100 questions and a random number generator. I have rolled. We got question 37, which to start us off, question 37 comes. We'll start back with Scott this time. As to both of you, how much of your success do you attribute to luck versus butt in chair time?
I think it's almost an even split. I mean, uh, there's always a little bit of luck or a little bit of connections or something can help. I my first big publication was when I got into one of the Strange New Worlds Star Trek short story writing contest anthologies. And so I don't think it was luck that I got in. Maybe a little bit of luck because there were thousands of entries. So I'm sure that uh, there were plenty of stories equally as good as mine that didn't make the cut just for whatever reason. Um, but then, that led me to be invited to a convention, a Star Trek convention, and then there I met the then editor at Simon and Schuster of the Star Trek line, Marco Palmieri, and that led to further publications eventually. And they got to know me a little bit, and when they were looking for a new copy editor about 10 years ago, they got in touch with me. And so there was my ability to write, but then there were sort of these chance things where it's like, well, I made it to this convention, I met the right person, hit it off. And so there's always
Yeah.
kind of a combination of you got to work on your craft, uh, but it also helps to do some networking, getting to know people. And I'm trying to think if there's anything that would be just completely luck based, and I don't know. Uh, yes, actually, can I tell another story? So, uh, over 10 years ago, I was an in-house editor at a small nonfiction publishing company, and I was editing a book on the space shuttle. Got contacted by a guy who was asking about some of the illustrations in the book, and I said, well, what do you want to know? What's going on? And he said, well, I'm making a movie, a CGI IMAX movie about the space program. And I've been in contact with NASA. They're supposed to send me files, 3D files, so my model will look great. But they're, corporate stuff. It's slow. I haven't gotten anything. And so you had some good illustrations in your book. Are they CGI? And I said, I don't know. I'll get in touch with the author. And so I'm chatting with this guy, and then he said, well, you might know someone who's a writer. I have a partially finished screenplay for the IMAX movie, but the guy who started it has moved out to LA to try to break into the movies big time. Would you happen to know any writers? And I
Oh,
said,
geez.
yes, I'm a writer. I'm a writer. I'm a
Nice.
lifelong, space program nut. I've written, I've not had anything produced, but I'm familiar with the screenplay format because that was back in the day when Next Generation and Deep Space Nine would take unsolicited scripts. So I sent in a couple, and so he said, "Well, let's have a meeting and talk." So I ended up co-writing two IMAX space documentaries, and that started from just chance that the guy called looking for this illustration, and for once I, just had the guts to just say, "Yeah, me."
He's like, yes,
Nice.
I'll throw myself under the bus here.
Yeah, exactly.
Rick, how about you?
Yeah, so for me, it was mostly butts and seats. So after I finished my book, it was okay. Now, how do I get it published? And I knew grammar was never my thing, and I knew that my book was going to need a lot of editing work and the rest of it. And I tried to go the traditional route, and I sent it out probably 15, 20 different routes, and I got like 4 or 5 nice rejection letters. And it wasn't, this is crap, and we're not doing it. Yeah, it looks like something, but it's not something that we're really into. And I found a group called Paper Ribbon Books that helps indie authors, and they said, well, if you'd like, we'd like to take a look at a couple of chapters of your book and see what it's about. So they read like 3 or 4 chapters, and then they came back to me a few weeks later and they said, yeah, we think this is something. We think we can help you with this. And so they helped me and they help with the editing, they help with the book cover, they helped me get it formatted and put on Amazon. And that was all because I wouldn't take no for an answer and just kept pushing through trying to find somebody that would help me.
So less luck, more determination. Definitely some butt
Right.
and seat time for both of you. Unless we're, getting random phone calls to write screenplays that I would consider as luck
Right.
and not just luck. I mean, the luck triggered it, but it was definitely
Yeah.
the
The
decision made
initiatives
to take to
forward.
say me. So there was that as well.
Yeah.
So that's remember, chat. Take advantage of the opportunities presented to you. Do you have
Oh
any
yeah.
follow up
I mean,
questions, Julie?
I had a similar thing happen to me with Dustin. For those that don't know, I am the author of Dustin from the Four Queens for Four Kings series. Um, I started out on the Unholy Dream pay to read site, and I got up to that 12,000 word cap, and they were like, "Hey, it's about time you start looking for contracts." And they were like, "Oh no, we don't want this. This is terrible." 4 months later, I get a direct email from them and was like, "Hey, we want to offer you an exclusive contract." And I said, "Hey, go stuff it." Um, they're exclusive contracts for life. There's no
Oh,
like,
Oh,
uh,
Jesus.
and they keep it looks like a 50-50 split on paper, and
Hmm.
what it actually is literal quarters of pennies on the dollar.
Oh,
I made
geez.
one paid to read site over $750,000 in 3 months. My book was up, and that was just completed reads. That wasn't people who started reading it and then fell off somewhere in between. That was $750,000 in the 3 months that it stayed at number one.
That's awesome.
I got $1,600.
Oh,
ugh.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Um, After a lot of arguing, a lot of breach of contract on their end, I finally got out of the contract, but not before it had been pirated 23 times. It
Hmm.
it did really well on Amazon. And then I realized that the person that I trusted with the manuscript screwed me over big time. So a lot of mine was luck of the draw, but also a lot of it fell where it fell. So I understand it's like, no, there you definitely have to have butt in the seat time. But it's definitely one of those that if you do not hone the craft and then pray to the good literary gods above that it's gonna fall where it needs to fall, um, things happen.
Yeah.
Things definitely happen.
Yeah.
Okay, my question for y'all. What is the one thing you researched for your books that probably has you on an FBI watch list?
Start with
Yes,
Rick
I've
this
been dying
time.
to ask
We'll
the
start
question.
with Rick this time.
Rick.
Um, so I was reading some stuff, and I was talking with another author, and it's like, okay, I have some ideas for another book. So one of the things I looked up was, okay, in one of the new high end cars, can they hear you scream if you're in the trunk?
Valid. Valid.
All right. Well, don't give me ideas on what to search. Okay.
Yeah. I don't know if I don't know if I'm on any watch lists, but I would definitely be. Um, I mean, I've researched, what happens when someone is stabbed. You're looking up
Yeah.
murder things, and then just weird things. I've got this long-suffering novel that is set in the late 19th century, and uh, I found myself, and there's sort of some Jack the Ripper type murders involved in this story. And so I found myself doing a keyword search, what kind of shoes did Victorian prostitutes wear? And so,
Valid. Because if you're trying to
yeah,
keep it, within a certain believability,
exactly.
Right.
And
that's
I'm,
exactly what you do.
yeah, and I have to really control myself from not over researching, because you can go down a rabbit hole and just spend hours and hours and
Yeah.
hours and hours, and at some point you just have to stop and write the damn story, and hope that you got things mostly right. But yeah, so if you could go through my search history, certainly you would find all sorts of bizarre and embarrassing things that I've looked up for books that, and sometimes the stuff doesn't even get in the book, because sometimes there's things
Right.
that you as the writer need to know to write, but the reader doesn't need to know.
Right. No,
So
no.
yeah.
I have like full on, like I've literally gone on there and researched areas, and then I looked at listings of houses with certain parameters, and I would only take ones that I literally got uh actual plan for. So over on one side of my screen, I literally have the complete floor plan with where the furniture is, where the bedrooms are set up, and then I'm like, okay, so the murder happens here. And if he drug him out the back door, how many rooms would he go into, and how much luminol would we actually need to pick up
Right.
that
To
bullshit?
clean it up. Yeah.
Um, and we were in voice chat one night, and I sat there and said that, and Izzy just turned around and went, "Shush, we don't talk about it." And we just kept going. So
As the
yeah, we
non-author of
know
the group,
all about that.
I will say that I appreciate all of your questionable research that every author inevitably does, because that immersion is important. I don't want to read a Jack the Ripper murder mystery about, and read a line that's like Elizabeth ran down the cobblestone streets in her Air Jordans. Um,
Right.
yeah, so we do greatly appreciate the questionable research that you guys do.
Okay. Stakes, next question's yours.
Yep, I already got it pulled up. All right, so this one comes with a don't no spoilers, no giving away anything. But uh what is a secret your protagonist has that did not make it into the final manuscript? Now I know that that sounds like, oh, if it's not there, it's not a spoiler, but like it could be adjacent or in a next one. So I don't want you guys giving away anything, but like what is a major character trait or major secret that your protagonist had that didn't make the cut? This one, I believe, goes back to Scott.
Okay. Let's see. I do have a character in a short story. I've only had her in one short story, um, and I'm working on, for years, I've been working on here and there sort of a novella length sequel. And I'm not going to say what the answer is because I don't know when, if it'll ever show up when I do write more stories about her. But the character goes by initials JM, and I know what the name stands, what the name is, but it hasn't been revealed yet, and I don't know if I will. Uh, Other than that, the current series, I'm doing a series of novellas with a friend of mine, William Leisner, called Tales of the Weird World War. And it's about this developing invasion of Earth by shape-shifting monsters that take on human form. And we're telling it over the course of decades. It starts in the 40s. Each volume goes ahead a decade. And so we know a lot about what's going on prior to the characters ever finding out. And then there's stuff that we don't know, when will the characters find out? So in that series, there's lots of stuff that we know that hasn't been put into the books yet. And then there's lots of stuff we're making up as we go along because we're kind of doing a blend of planning and pantsing. But I mentioned this earlier talking about research, is that there's often stuff that you as the author know that the reader doesn't need to know. And that kind of fits into this question too, that there's stuff that you hold back.
Absolutely.
Self censorship.
Yeah, for me, that's kind of could be kind of a tough one because one of the things that I did in my first book was kind of outline who the characters were and what they were involved with, so that way you had a background of what they were doing. So as far as the protagonist and something that,
Protagonist is Connor, right?
yeah, and I'm just trying to think of, I mean, there was one thing that happened in the book that he doesn't, that only his brother is aware of, but nobody else is aware of, but you read it in the book. So it's kind of hard to think of anything that I haven't put out there. Um, the one thing that I can tell you about the protagonist is he plays everything close to the vest. He doesn't tell people anything until they need to know, or he thinks they need to know. He doesn't give any of them information. So there's a lot of stuff that it's like, well, why the hell didn't you tell us? And it's like, because I didn't want you to know until I was ready to divulge it. So he does
Commissioner
do a
Gordon
lot of
type.
that in the book. Yeah, exactly.
You have another one, Julie, or you want me to bounce to the next one?
Oh no, I've got one. Um, which one of your characters would look down on you if they were to see you today? Like, which one of your characters would look at you and basically be like, "You should have been so much further than what you are right now."
Oh, I feel that way about myself enough.
It's like, which character's judging you right now?
um, I have a character in the title story of my recent short story collection, The Sad Rains of Mars, and the lead character is a female Martian detective, very much a Sherlock Holmes kind of person who's, the smartest person in the room. So she leaps to mind as someone who would look at me as a human that she's so much smarter than and judge me.
Okay, for me, it would probably be Emperor Esteban would probably look at me and go, "Well, with everything that you've done, why aren't you further along than you are at this point?" Probably with my writing and the rest of it.
Very fair. Very fair.
I was gonna say it can't be your protagonist because your protagonist would know exactly why you're not further along. That's the whole thing he's got going on, right?
Exactly.
Right on, right on. Okay, 6, you.
All right. So the randomized question was another which of your characters question. We'll get back to that one later, so we're not doing them back to back. So my next question for you both is what is your quote unquote white whale story? What is the one idea you've had bouncing around for a while that you've always wanted to sit down and write, but you can just never seem to get on paper? Go back to Scott first. Or wait, we just did Scott first last time. We'll go back to Rick here.
Um, yeah, so actually I have a couple. I have one that I actually started, but because I've been in this other series, it has to do with Warlock and Super Warlocks is what I call them, and spell book. And I got a couple of chapters into it, and it's like I wanted to continue it, but I've um, in book 5 of Zeta 5, the Zeta 5 series, looking to finish it with book 6, so I just haven't been able to jump into that one and get that one going again.
I have a lot of unfinished projects. That's one of my problems as a writer, that I get distracted by something else and hop around and leave things on the table. The one that I think would most qualify as the white whale is my fantasy. Everyone, especially when you're younger and you first read Lord of the Rings, you start thinking about, I want to write an epic fantasy trilogy.
Yeah.
And when I was doing a year abroad in England during college, I found it very inspirational to be living in England. And I started making notes about a fantasy story. Well, that was 40 plus years ago. I once wrote like the first 150 pages and realized that I had barely scratched the surface of my outline. But then over the decades, as I got older and read more and developed my writing craft more, every once in a while I would go back and I would take a look at my notes and realize, oh, this is just a trope ridden derivative mess. And so then I would think about, well, how could I make it more original? How could I turn those tropes around? So I always think about it. And even recently I made some notes about it, but will I ever actually get to writing that? I don't know. But one time at a convention, I met a younger writer for the first time, and somehow we were talking about these kinds of things that you've got in your back pocket. And I mentioned that, and she looked at me with a smirk and said, "Your fantasy novel idea is older than I am."
No.
That really put it in perspective. Yes, I have an idea that's older than a lot of people that I know.
Goodness. Julie, I think we have a question from chat if you want to.
Yes, we do. Do you find yourselves more a pantser or a plotter, or somewhere in between, or does it depend on the story itself that you're trying to?
I'll go. For me, it's I usually start out with a basic plot and an arc for it. But usually when I get into writing, then it's kind of the characters kind of have a mind of their own.
Oh, yes.
and they'll take me off in different directions. So I started a plotter, but don't normally end up that way by the time I'm done.
Yeah, I think it tends to blur together a bit. If I'm working on a short story, I will usually have in my head the beginning, middle, and end.
Yeah.
But the longer the piece is, then it's more likely that I'll take some notes and you know get more organized. And if it starts to be more like a full novel length idea, then I might have a chapter by chapter breakdown. But you try to you try to have enough of a framework that it helps you to keep moving along, but you don't want to be too slavish to that. You want to be able to discover things along the way. And so then the pantsing comes in, and like you said, then the characters start getting a mind of their own as you develop them, and suddenly they say something that you weren't expecting, and you're like, wow, that takes me in a whole different direction. So you have to kind of be open to those discoveries along the way, even if you are planning out so that you know where you're getting to. Because generally, I find that having an end in mind, then you kind of know that you're going in the right direction, and you don't get too lost in the weeds along the way.
All right. Looks like Julie stepped away, so I guess I'll jump in with the next question. How you guys doing so far? I'll intermission real quick. Everybody holding up? Everybody need water? Everybody stretch? We all right?
Uh,
I'm
I
good.
probably will pour myself some water soon here.
Excellent. All
So
right. Go ahead.
I'm just going to step out for a second.
Chat, if one of the guests can go get water, you can go get water. You have no excuse.
I'm back. I usually remember to
You're not going to be
keep
that
it
fast.
right next to me, but I forgot this time.
Okay, then I guess there's no reason I can't jump to the next one. Um, this one is a would you rather question. Not as scary as it sounds. Would you rather have a cult following of 1,000 people that buy every single one of your releases, or a number one world best selling book that is forgotten within a year?
I think I'd go with the cult following.
Yeah, I agree with that because with the cult following, you can expand out from there. If the number one and you're done in a year, then what do you do?
Well, okay. Let's devil's advocate this for a moment
Yeah,
because that's what I do. Let's devil's advocate this for a moment. Now,
sure.
you're not saying that every book wouldn't be number one and then out in a year. You're just merely saying that it's that one. So technically, while you're doing the whole number one bestseller, this, that, and the other, you'd be over here making the next and the next one and the next one. And I mean,
Yeah,
I
true.
think I would go with the number one and be out of it in a year. And then that way, when I did reemerge with another story, it has the potential to be right back there. I mean, yeah, cult followings are nice, but then they get freaking antsy and figure out where the hell you live. Just saying.
True.
Doxing is a real thing.
Yeah, no, yeah, no, that makes sense.
So, devil's advocate on that one. We have another question from the audience. Have you ever completed a draft and then gone back and inserted a completely new chapter? I think everybody does, but I mean,
Uh, I've never inserted a new chapter. I've gone back each one of my books before that's gone to editing. I've probably been through it probably 5 or 6 times and tweaked here and tweaked there, but I've never completely written in a new chapter in any of my books.
Yeah, nothing that extensive that I can think of, but there have been times where um, you might realize that there is something a little off, that you need a little something extra, and
Hmm.
but it might just be some tweaks here and there, a paragraph or something. Um, you know, maybe bumping up some dialogue for a character to get a little bit more emotional punch. Um, but
I
since I've
had to
worked
go back in and. Oh, I'm sorry.
since I've worked primarily, well, I was just going to say that I've worked primarily in shorter form stuff, and so I haven't had been in a position where adding an entire new chapter might even be, you know, necessary.
For some, adding a whole new chapter, you might as well, write that into the next book or write that into the next part
Yep.
of the series, and you kind of get that information anyway. I did have to go back in and explain without uh dropping a lot of information at once, without info dropping. Uh Classic Cars, because I realized that not everybody grew up the way I did, which means not everybody knows that you can't get into a 1972 trunk without the key or taking the entire back seat out. That was part of one of the reviews I had, and realized I was like, oh crap, I gotta go back and add that information because not everybody understood the classic car references.
Right.
But that was like tweaking of chapters. That's not necessarily adding something.
Yeah.
The other one I had while I was walking out of the room. I'm sorry, Six. I'm gonna skip over you real quick while you grab the next question.
I
Um,
already got it. So
oh, when writing, are you a pen and paper, or are you strictly like digital? Like it's got to be on a laptop, or it's got to be here or there, and a couple other spots. Ugh. Gotta look at.
I'll go.
I'll jump.
So,
I'll jump.
so for
Oh,
me, it's 99% laptop. I will take pen to paper and jot down notes and stuff if I'm in the middle of something. If I'm not able to quickly get to my laptop and punch those notes in, but it's for me, it's 99% laptop.
me as well. I once tried an experiment when I was at that in-house publishing job that I mentioned earlier. I had a half an hour bus ride uh, in the morning and in the afternoon, and for a while I tried writing on the bus, which I wasn't going to try having a laptop in my lap, and so I was using pen and a notebook, and I got a lot of writing done, but then I found out that when I would go back to try to transcribe that into the laptop, that sometimes it was hard to read the writing that I was doing on the bus. And and then it also seems like it's taking twice as long as you think, because you've written it once and then you're writing it again, and it's not the same as, I mean, you revise a little bit as you go, but I still just found it awkward, and so then I just went to reading strictly on the bus, no writing, and since then I am almost always on my laptop. If I get an idea when I'm not at my laptop, I'll type in a note or put it in an email, on my phone, and email it to myself or
Yep.
whatever. Uh, I do that a lot, and when I'm trying to fall asleep at night, if I get an idea for a story, I just put it in an email and send it. Because I just find that I just work so much better in that environment.
something satisfying about the feeling of nice, smooth. When you realize, you're already writing a book. I make yourself write it twice with describing it. So
Yep.
I understand that, and it's good to know about. I input. Now we have seen information that the author needs to know that the audience doesn't, and information that the author knows that the audience also needs to know doesn't. So, both sides of the coin here. we're going to pivot a little bit to your relationship with your characters. So, your relationship to your characters, would you consider yourself like, what would you call it? Are you more like an omnipotent god who moves chess pieces around on the board, or are you an after action reporter who just puts, types away whatever your characters tell you to? I'll let you guys determine who wants to go first on this.
I'll jump in. It's a little bit of both because when you start out, I don't. Lots of times for me, the characters don't have their full voice when you're just working on that first draft. And as you discover them more, if you're lucky, then you really get into that zone where you're just transcribing what they're saying, which is a really, a weird feeling if you think about it. That because obviously you've created these characters entirely, but you can get that feeling that you're just writing down what they're saying. And so that's always the goal to get a character to the point where they just seem to have that life of their own.
Yeah, actually, yeah, I agree with that. And the other thing too, for me, is I do find some personal attachment to some of these characters. Um, I have a scene in the middle of my first book that I knew I was going to have to write, and I knew how it was going to have to go. And after I was done writing it, I had to take a break for a couple of days because it affected me that much.
So in, way back in the day, they used to say, don't talk to yourself, it makes you seem crazy. But now, if you're just listening to the voices in your head and typing what they say, you're actually an author. So,
Exactly.
oh,
Look, I look at it as if I am talking to myself, I am referencing an expert, or we are having a staff meeting. I will get back to you when we have a conclusion.
Yeah. As that saying go, I asked myself if I was crazy, and the voices in my head said no.
I'm not crazy. I'm undercaffeinated. Yes, we do have another chat question. You want to go ahead and read that one off,
yeah, I got
or do
it.
you want me to?
Ace asks, have you ever pulled off, stopped driving during a long commute or any drive just to write down a thought that came into your head? I will. I'm going to alter this question a little bit just to make it more interesting and say, where is the most interesting place you've ever had that, like, ping of inspiration hit?
I can't think of anything scandalous. It's writing on buses, writing in bed, writing, yeah, I don't know, making notes on a plane. I mean, it's, uh, I certainly have had to make notes um, everywhere that I've been or traveled, um, but nothing that gives a really
So,
great answer.
all right. So, before I actually got into writing, I was a director of IT, and I had a 90-mile commute each way, and so I would leave 4:30 in the morning. I would have literally have my laptop up in my car on my seat with my phone going. And as traffic would slow, I would bounce out emails and respond to stuff on my phone. And there were a few times that it was touch and go whether or not I was going to be in a pile. So, but that was some of my questionable thought process trying to get stuff done while I'm trying to commute to work.
So no 80, 85, or 90 down the interstate, and suddenly you throw on your flashers and wave at the state trooper and say, "Hey, I just got to write down this book idea." So,
No.
Nothing that prolific, no.
I did once I did once get an email from a potential client And not only was I on vacation and at a convention, but I was having a medical issue. I found out later I had probably had Lyme disease,
Oh, no.
and so I'm like feverish. I've got this big red splotch on my leg. I'm at a convention where I'm wondering how I'm going to get through the weekend, depending on how bad I was feeling from whatever I had. And, the urgent care wouldn't take my insurance. It was a whole thing. And then I get this email from this potential huge client saying, oh, could you, send us a bunch of material? And I ended up not getting the job, probably because I wasn't able to really give them my top level of work under those circumstances.
I mean, if we're talking about the weirdest place I've ever pulled over to write something down because I couldn't get Google to open, that would probably be Mount Eagle Mountain, and it was one of those pull-off passes for the trucks.
Oh, geez. Okay.
The
And it
runaway
was
ramps or one of the
yeah.
little pullouts?
No, it was the runaway ramp. I was 7 months pregnant, and the car was messing up. My phone had died. It was a whole big thing, and of course, I have a thought pop in my head. Not great. So I pulled over to check the car out. At the same time, I'm like, hey, let me just write this down because I can't write it in my cell phone because my cell phone. And right after I did that, I got out and a cop pulled in behind me and he's like, is everything okay? And I said, no, it's not, but it will be as soon as I can get over the state line. And he was like, okay. And he sees that I'm like pregnant, my feet are swollen. I'm out there because I think there's something wrong. And he was just like, here, how about you follow me to the rest area and we will deal with,
Nice.
everything else. And I'm like, okay. But yeah, if we're talking about like the weirdest, yeah, that would be it.
I think this is the perfect opportunity to say that we here at Hold My Pen Promcast do not condone distracted driving, whether
No,
that's
we don't.
responding to emails or pulling off on runaway ramps to jot down book ideas. Folks, drive safely. If you happen to be listening to this in the car, do not chat. You can just listen along.
Because that's what we do.
Continuing with our character relationships, and Rick kind of touched on this with his last answer there. So, what character death did you enjoy writing just a little bit too much? And if you don't have one, what was one you really enjoyed reading?
Okay. For me, it near the end of the first book, it was I can't really give out any spoilers, but one of the main evil characters within the book, um, uh, it was enjoyable to write out their death.
I would piggyback on that. Yes, when you get to kill off a really bad guy, that can be very satisfying. Um, but there is in a strange way, it can also be very satisfying when you have to have a character that you like die, because you might achieve something as a writer that you're very happy with, that you've written a very emotionally wrenching scene. You think that you've captured
Yep.
that. And I have one of those. I referenced the story earlier. It's the sequel that I'm working on that I don't know if I'll ever get back to, but I have a character die in there that's probably my favorite death scene I've written because I just felt that I captured the emotions of it. But it's a very heart wrenching, sad scene. Um, but yeah, I felt like the art of it, I felt very satisfied with.
Very cool. Very cool. Okay. This one is more of a personal nature, but do you eat while you write? Like, do
I
you
really
snack
don't.
while you're writing?
Um, I'll snack in between, but I just don't like to write when I'm on the keyboard. I don't get my laptop crumbs and all of that on it. So I'll step away. I do drink Coke, but I also will drink that while I'm writing. But as far as eating, I'll step away, eat, and then come back.
I will occasionally have a cookie or two, but but being very self-conscious about those crumbs. But anything beyond a tiny little snack like that, yeah, it's stepping away from the computer to avoid problems. I'm always drinking tea while I'm working, whether I'm editing or writing. I usually am drinking tea, and even that can be a little nerve wracking about having a mishap and spilling
Yep.
tea. I once killed a keyboard in a laptop because there was a very unlikely chain of events that led to me like dropping the laptop and the teacup tipping over on the table and the tea running across the table and then dripping off to the table onto the keyboard where the laptop had landed. And this was many many years ago, and it was an iBook, and at that time the iBooks had keyboards that just were a separate component. You could just buy a keyboard and put it in
Right.
yourself. It was back when you could actually fix your own computer more than you can now.
Yeah, you could pop.
And
You could pop it out, pop one in, and
yeah,
yeah,
and so
yeah. It
luckily,
was a pain in the butt, but you could
as
do
soon
it.
as the as soon as the tea went into the keyboard, I turned the laptop upside down, and so only the keyboard was destroyed. I was able to just replace it. But yeah, eating or drinking while you're on that laptop can be dangerous.
Everyone thinks that
Absolutely.
the chopsticks hack for eating Cheetos is for gamers, but it's really for authors, so you're not getting Cheeto dust in your.
Yeah, yeah.
Right.
We have a chat question. Uh, Izzy asks, "Do you always write in the same space, or do you take your laptop someplace else?"
I'm I have a detached office where I live. That's where I'm talking to you from. And so most of the time I'm out in my office when I'm working, in whether it's writing or editing. But then sometimes, if no one else is in the house, we've got a lovely sunroom, and if no one else is around, then sometimes I'll work from in there because it's a really nice space. But usually there's at least one other person in the house, and it's just too distracting. I can't work when there's someone rattling around doing other stuff. So I have to be out in my office in my comfy chair.
So, yeah, for me, I mean, the space that I'm in right now, technically, if this facade wasn't here, you'd see my workbench. And what I did is, after we remodeled the house, I added a desk to my workbench. So I'm sitting right at my desk here in the garage. And this is where I do probably 80% of my writing. But we have a bedroom, one of the bedrooms, guest bedrooms, and I'll sit on the bed there with the dogs at night, and I'll sit there and write in there as well. So I have two spaces that I can normally write from.
that reminds me that I do occasionally write late at night, sitting down in the basement in the home theater with my cat curled up next to me. But I find
Nice.
that when I was younger, I would write much later at night, and now that I'm the more old and decrepit I get, after a certain time of night, it's like I might be able to watch a movie just fine, but if I try to engage my brain enough to write, it just doesn't happen.
I find if my brain engages, uh, don't plan on sleeping for at least 4 to 6 hours. So God help me if I catch that second wind at like midnight.
Right.
Yep.
I won't look up
And you're
my
doomed.
computer until my husband walks to the door at like 3 a.m. And then he's looking at me like, "What are you doing awake?" And I'm looking at him going, "Why are you talking to me?" Because now I've lost my train of thought and now I figure out what the hell I was doing. So yeah, I completely get that.
Izzy, I think you gave me the perfect segue into what has to be the most unhinged question on this list of 100 questions. So prepare yourselves, everybody. Uh, so we've both determined that you're creatures of habit. You like to have your dedicated writing space. So that's the perfect way to lead into. Uh, what does your writing den smell like after a week of hard writing?
Well, it doesn't really, we've established that we generally don't eat while we're writing. I've got a detached office, so the cat doesn't come into my office. And so there really isn't much here that imparts any additional smell other than just, the day-to-day whatever.
The burning of the laptop?
Yeah.
Okay, for me, it depends on um, which day of the week it is. Like I said, this is my garage, so my lawnmower sits in here. So there'll be mowed grass smell for a while. Since we're in North Carolina and we're hitting spring season, there is the occasional infestation of a few stink bugs that will creep into the garage once in a while. So there's that smell. But other than that, I mean, that's really about it for the most part. I have an exhaust fan that in this garage that pretty much sucks out every other smell. So that's really it. That the type of aromas that I get on in here.
Good, Julie?
Oh yeah, we're good
Okay.
for at least another half a second.
You want me to continue or you got a question for him?
I do have a question. Um, when you are either writing or editing, um, are you it has to be pitch silent, or you can have other things on like movies on in the background, music with or without lyrics?
I almost always have music playing, symphonic music. I listen to a lot of movie soundtracks while I'm working, and I pick I match the soundtrack to whatever I'm working on. So if I'm working on a fantasy novel, I'll be playing this, Lord of the Rings soundtracks. If I'm working on, as I often do, working on something Star Trek related, I have just about every Star Trek soundtrack that's been released. I could listen to Star Trek music for like 4 days in a row without repeating anything. But I get so, I can be very obsessive, and since I own so many Star Trek soundtracks, I can tailor if I'm writing or working on a Deep Space Nine novel, I'll be playing Deep Space Nine soundtracks. I'll play the soundtrack that matches uh, the series or the era of Star Trek that I'm working on. But I can't listen to music with lyrics while I'm working generally. The only time that I've listened to music with lyrics is, I think, while I was working on my Tales of the Weird World War novel that was set in the 40s. I think I was listening for a little while to 1940s music, classic, crooner type music with lyrics. But generally, it's just got to be symphonic stuff, so it's not distracting.
Yeah, for me, I don't really listen to music when I'm writing, but I need to have the TV going, but it has to be something repetitive that I've already seen. So that way, when I look up at something, it's not something that's distracting me and I have to pay attention to and then try and jump back into writing. For me, so I'll have stuff like Big Bang or Two and a Half Men or movies that I've watched before playing continuously. So that way, as I'm typing, I can look up, okay, that's where they are, and go right back to whatever I'm doing, and really don't lose much when I do that.
I kind of wish I could do that, but I've tried that, and even if
Yeah.
it's a movie that I've watched 400 times, next thing I know, I'm
You
just
still get
watching it.
distracted?
Yeah, I'm just watching it. And
Well,
whatever I
see,
was trying to
I'm
do.
I'm not in between. When I'm editing, I have to do it without lyrics. So I'm usually listening to stuff like rain falling or light jazz or something of that nature.
Mhm.
Um,
Right.
but if I'm writing, depending on what I'm writing, that could be anything from Five Finger Death Punch to AC/DC to ZZ Top. I've been known to play Crazy Train on repeat for hours because I'm looking for a very specific part in the lyric because
To
of
drive
what
it
I'm
down.
writing. So
Yeah.
I can see both ways with that. But I've also learned not to put on shows in the background because then I get asked, it's not even I'm watching it. I get asked 1,000 questions about it, the people that I live with. So I will be sitting there writing, and then my husband will be like, "Why are you watching this episode again?" And I'm like, "I'm not watching the episode again. I just picked up where fucking HBO left off." Like,
She
Yeah,
doesn't.
it drives my wife crazy because she'll walk in and see the same thing that I'm watching over and over again. And it's like, why are you doing that? Because so I know where I'm at.
I don't
I
know.
just look up, I
This
know where I'm at, and continue on.
this discussion made me remember that one time, decades ago, I was writing a short story, and one of the lead characters was Irish. And so I kept playing U2 Rattle and Hum so that I could listen to Bono whenever he spoke. And it helped
Right?
me get the rhythm of the dialogue
They were
for the
speaking.
Irish character. And then I, at the time, had a friend who was Irish. And so I had him read it to say, give me notes on the dialogue. And he said, "Oh, you nailed it. Sounds perfect." And
Nice.
it was all because channeling Bono via Rattle and Hum to write the dialogue.
They do have that very, I'm pretty sure it's cliche at this point to say that Irish is a very lyrical, sound to it.
That's the thing. Yep, there's a rhythm to it
You know,
that, yeah.
she doesn't actually listen to Crazy Train for hours on repeat, everybody. It's only once. She just keeps hearing it in her head for hours. Hence the crazy part. But we're talking
That's
about
fun.
music, so I guess I'll follow up with another
Yeah.
music-related question. This is a two-part. Would you say that each of your books could have its own soundtrack of like a list of songs that you're thinking of, like scene by scene? And is there a particular song that if you hear it immediately like makes you think of your protagonist?
Yeah, I'll go. Pink Floyd, Sorrow. That I've listened to it several times, and when I was trying to get my book published, I I would pump that song to motivate me to keep going till I got my book published. So that one plays in my head all the time.
What album is that from?
Ah, uh, I'm drawing a blank. It's
Yeah.
you can see it. It's got like a Hawaiian. What do you call it? The carving, the head carving, but I can't think of the name of the album. Um,
We have Mr. Google King over there. Hold on one second. We will.
I I've never.
I know when I watch Styx's fingers move, it's like, no, he's good. Hold on.
It would be. I think it'd be fun for some of my stories to go back and look at them and put together a playlist. But I've never done it, and nothing. Since I don't listen to any music with lyrics while I'm working, I don't have a strong connection to what would be a good playlist to go along. But I think if I reread some of my stuff with that in mind, it would be a really fun exercise to put together playlists. I have writer friends that, definitely have playlists and they'll,
yeah,
post them on their
sometime.
website,
Yep.
but yeah, that's not something I've done before.
Hey, it's 2026. Time to try something new. Keep the
Yeah.
creative juices flowing. Ever stuck in a
Absolutely.
hiatus, you can go back, read a book and one of your own books and say, I'm gonna put a playlist to this. But for anybody following along who wants to know, Sorrow by Pink Floyd was featured as the closing track on their 1987 studio album, A Momentary Lapse in Reason, or of
Yes,
Reason.
that's it. Yeah. Of reason. Yep.
Okay. I knew I should have known that, but
Personally, I'm another brick in the wall kid, so
oh yeah.
I'm a Pink Floyd poser, so I only know like Dark Side of the Moon and The Wall, and that's it. So don't mind me.
Worries.
When I was living in England during college, I think I listened to The Wall at least a little bit every day for the entire school year. And this was a long time ago, so I was listening to it, on a cassette tape in, my little Walkman portable.
Right.
Yeah, with the little like orange headphones.
So I
Yeah, I
had
had it on the 8-track tape, so that tells you how far back I go.
I never had the orange headphone ones, but I did get the one. I'm dating myself here, and I shouldn't be doing. I'm interviewing. I shouldn't be doing personal anecdotes, but I turned in Kool-Aid points for a Kool-Aid Man Walkman.
Oh, nice.
Dating myself there.
Nice.
My next question is a little bit more this is a little bit more conventional. This is something that we expect to see in an author interview, but I do firmly believe this is one of the most controversial kind of questions that people can have, not for bad reasons. It's just you get a very polarizing answer from different authors. So, are you in the camp of never read the reviews or always read the reviews, and why?
I try very hard to not read reviews, um, just because, they can be very painful, and sometimes you should be able to laugh them off, and because a person will go so over the top, it just gets to be funny more than mean. But the only time I really remember reading reviews, and it was just a very insightful contrast. I did a Star Trek The Original Series ebook called The More Things Change. And it was a story about Dr. Chapel and Spock on a, shuttlecraft adventure, one of those things where they have to go on the shuttle and then things start going wrong. And I happened to see the first couple of reviews on Amazon after it came out. And I think it literally was like the first and second review. It's like the first review said, "This was great. I loved it. The characters sounded exactly like they did in the show or the movies. You know, loved it." And then the next review was, "This is the worst Star Trek book I've ever read. The characters didn't sound anything like they did in the movie or the shows." And it was just this revelation where you can think of, like, it seems like Leonard Nimoy's performance is sort of this objective thing. It exists right there on screen, but you know, people watch through their own personalities, and two people can watch the same thing, and they come away with a totally different feel for the character. And so, no matter how much you try to capture that character in your writing, two different people, you know, one will think it sounds exactly right, and the other one thinks it's completely wrong.
Yeah, for me, I read all the reviews. So since I'm a new author, it's kind of a training exercise for me because as I'm reading the reviews, then I'm trying to understand, okay, if they liked it, why did they like it? If they didn't like it, why didn't they like it? Is it something that I need to change? Is it something I need to tweak? Um, and I do have a 1-star review on Amazon, and the person claimed that they only read the first chapter. They said that they didn't like the book because um, I did too much tell and not enough show. And so it took me a little bit to understand what he was trying to say, but then I wanted this, okay, so let me dig into this person a little more. So I went to read other reviews that he posted, and this person was just an unhappy person because all he was giving was 1 and 2-star reviews for everything. So it's kind of,
Yeah.
I look at it as kind of a badge of honor. I do have a 1-star review. I am a valid author because not everybody likes my stuff.
You can't please everybody, right?
No, you can't.
The-
Absolutely not.
I'm glad you
And
guys
by
had
the way,
opposite
I think that
answers.
I think that we had the same person enter or rate us because I have several 1-star reviews with that exact thing of I got a 1-star review because Kindle malfunctioned and wouldn't upload the book. I'm like, how is
Yeah,
that a me problem?
that's right. Exactly. Why is that your problem?
Yeah,
You
yeah.
should be
Amazon
telling Amazon, not you. Yeah,
Amazon is full of those kinds of horrible reviews where they give 1 star
yeah,
to a book because, you know, it took 2 weeks to arrive instead of Prime shipping with 2 days or whatever. And
yeah,
but you know, if you can find, there are people who write careful, honest reviews
yes,
that can be helpful and insightful for a writer if you find the right person who really puts some thought into their critique. But so often
yeah, absolutely.
you don't get that, and then it's not helpful. But you know, it can be great. It can feel great if it's a, you know, if it's a 5-star review, even if they haven't said anything truly substantive that you could use to, you know, bring back to your work. It still can feel great.
It's yeah, I always like seeing authors answers to that one because I can see both sides of the fence, and I'm sure everybody can see
Yeah,
both sides of the fence. Where, like Rick said, you wanna get feedback from your readers so you know what you can improve on, what you need to change. Whereas there's also what Scott said, where if you get a bunch of bad reviews, or even not even a bunch, even just 1 or 2, if they're really pointed or personal or whatever, it's scathing reviews, they can really crush your confidence and slow down your writing and things like that. So it's really going to come down to who you are as an author, what you can handle, I think.
yeah,
Um, and you got to learn to ignore the stupid ones. Like if you're writing a romance novel and you get a 1-star review that says 1 star because it had smut in it, well, guess what? That person's just an idiot. Um,
yep,
so those happen. I have personally seen it. So don't. But I'm glad you guys have opposite ends of the spectrum, but for both for valid reasons. It helps our readers and our authors here in the chat and watching, kind of figure out where they sit on that spectrum.
Also, to kind of play off of your question, Sticks, I do have a little caveat with that one. Do you, as writers, believe that that space is literally readers only? Like, that an author should not respond to that? Because
The
the
people that
controversy
review?
is that, the review is for the reader, the review is not for the author.
I would be very reluctant, generally speaking, to jump into the conversation, whether the review is good or bad, but particularly if it's bad, you don't want to try to disagree. Just that way, madness
Sway them
lies,
away.
trying to get in an argument with someone, which is part of the reason why I just avoid reading them at all. But I don't think it's also I don't think it's inherently wrong, depending on the circumstances, for a writer to pop into a discussion. But I also do think that it's good for readers to be able to say what they want to say without necessarily thinking that an author is going to come in and finger wag at them or something. So I kind of see both sides there, where having a reader only space can really stimulate a lot of good discussion, depending on the website or whatever that's hosting it. But yeah, I don't know. I can't remember that I've ever. Actually, I do remember one time when I responded to someone, and then it turned out to. So way back when I had my first Star Trek story published, there was a guy on the Trek BBS that raved about my story. And so I was like, I just responded and said, thanks, glad you liked it. Then a couple years later, I had my next Star Trek story published, and he mentioned that he didn't like it. And it was pretty innocuous. He just said something about not liking it. And since I recognized his name, it's like, oh, this was the guy that loved my previous one. So I just responded and said, oh, sorry you didn't like it. I know that you were a fan of my first one. And so my reply was pretty innocuous as well. But then he came at me. And it was like, well, that's because your first story was about something, and this story was a piece of shit that blah, 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 blah. And it was like, whoa. What is that about? Because I made it pretty clear in my original response that it didn't bother me that he didn't like the story, because you have to know that you can't please everyone. No matter how great you think a particular story of yours is, there's going to be people that like it and don't like it. So it didn't, I wasn't upset with him at his first post, but then when he replied to my post and just went hostile, but then I did what you mentioned earlier, Rick, was I started looking at more of his posts, and I discovered that he posted a lot of very negative things, and obviously was, going through a rough time in his life. And so it's like, okay.
I'll take it out on the author.
relax.
Yep, exactly. Yeah. Yep.
Okay, this one's circling back a little bit. This one's back on a previous topic and out of order here, but it's kind of eating at me. That's also the nature of randomized questions. So, which one of your characters have you had to put in their place more than once? And I'm not like in the book, but like when you're in that state of your characters are living in your brain and talking to you in the moment. Who's that one character that always grabs the mic and you just be like, hold on, get back in line? doing something.
Hmm. I'm pondering.
Okay, so I could say so one of the villains in the book, Craven, he doesn't have as quite a big part in the book. He's in there and he's you know who he is and everything that's going on there, but it's like he wants to drive more of what's going on in the book. And yeah, I've put him in the back and pulled other characters out in front of him. Yeah.
For me, I mean, it's probably one or two of the characters in one of my other unfinished novel projects I have, but it's actually it's the novel project that I've been trying to get back to primarily for the last year or so. But I have other projects that have been in the way, um, and they're both good characters. Um, you know, they're the heroes of the story, um, but they've both uh, make poor decisions here and there, and so sort of trying to keep them complex, real characters that can do make mistakes, but also trying to kind of rein them in so that I you know get the novel on the right path. It's probably them.
When we're talking about these, characters, and I think Scott, you mentioned this earlier. Um, what's the what is the hardest, abrupt left turn a character has taken on?
I I can't give any of the details because it would be a
Oh, no spoilers
huge
warning.
spoiler.
Hey, we like
Yeah,
those no spoiler warnings.
yeah. Well, I'm not going to do the spoiler because it's a character in the Tales of the Weird World War novella that I'm working on right now. Um, that I had a very solid conception of the character one way, and then it hit me like this is a whole different thing. And the idea was so out there that I immediately emailed my co-author. Although I say the uh, the series that I'm working on with my friend William Leisner, we don't work on the same story together. We each write a novella in a shared universe that goes into each volume in the series. But we have to keep in touch to make sure that we're maintaining continuity. And sometimes characters that, excuse me, sometimes characters that I create, he'll use them in a story and vice versa. So we have to keep in touch. And this character just took this bizarre turn. It was so bizarre. I emailed him right away and I said, "What do you think? Is this too bizarre? What if this happened?" And he said, "Nope, go ahead. That sounds good." So at some point in the next year, I hope that story comes out and then people will be able to figure out what I'm talking about maybe.
Hear that, chat? You got to get the book to find out what the hard left turn was. Apparently made the final cut. Do you have any, Rick?
Yeah, so when I was writing Connor and I send them to Zeta 5, there's some stuff that goes on for him that no spoilers, but things happen that I hadn't really thought about until I get him on the planet and things start to unfold and it's like, yeah, this makes a lot of sense and started moving forward with it. So it was a surprise to me when I got him there and this stuff started happening.
Right. I have one last question for you guys. I don't know if Julie has any others, and then after my question or after Julie's last question, we'll wrap up with what you want to let you guys handle the outro, what you want people to where to go, what to look for, things like
Mhm.
that. So my last question for you guys is: you were stuck on a desert island with only one book, but you cannot be rescued until you write the sequel to. What would it be?
Wow. The
Like,
first
no
part of the
pressure,
question.
Sticks. No pressure at
Yeah.
all.
The first part of the question, I was like, well, I know my answer because my favorite novel is The Lord of the Rings, and I've already read it, into the, couple of dozen times. That would probably be the one book I would want to have. But then when you had that twist that then I need to write the sequel to The Lord of the Rings.
Or an additional in the series if it's more than, one a
Whoa.
standalone book. Yeah, yeah.
That would be quite a hill to climb to try to write the sequel. I mean, Tolkien himself started writing a sequel and gave up on it.
Okay, for me, it would be, and the problem is, I'm not sure if there was a book, if this came from a book, but the movie The Last Starfighter, that has always played in the back of my head that there should be a sequel to that.
I think they've actually tried occasionally over the years. It seems to me I've heard,
Yeah,
but it
but
never,
yeah,
comes together.
it's never gone anywhere. Yeah.
Yeah.
Didn't even have to tell you guys you can't pick your own books. I appreciate that you didn't even try. That would have been the low hanging fruit there. But okay, yeah, I would definitely want to bring Lord of the Rings or The Hobbit if I were stuck on an island. I have read through them so many times, but yeah, trying to come up with anything to add to them, not gonna happen. I'm not that talented.
Yeah. If I went to my like second and third favorite books, then it's like Dracula and Frankenstein, and it would be. I already have various ideas for writing follow-ups to those, but
Julie, do you have any final questions, or do we want to let them do the outro?
Actually, this is a question for them to ask us. Do you guys have anything that you would like to ask the two of us? That is a really great way to end the show. Like, do you have anything?
well, let's see. Well, what are you currently working on?
46 works in progress.
Oh, jeez.
So
That's a really
currently, what
bad
I'm
mistake.
working on, like
What's
what
your
I'm working on for
primary
tomorrow.
project?
Because we do have a show on Saturday night, which is the other part of the Hold My Pen project. So I'm semi working on that. I am attempting to turn what we did for January, which was our Fresh Ink and Anonymous month. The story I wrote for those 5 weeks, I'm attempting to turn that into a psychological thriller novella that will hopefully be out before November. It was originally supposed to be out before August, but that is not going to happen. We already know that. So I've got that one. I have Cuts and Cufflinks, which is another one that I'm working on. I write mostly female gearheads, and they save themselves. Like that's just what I write.
Nice.
But I've got tons, if not tons, of stuff that I'm working on. So it's like, pick a genre.
Awesome. All right, so Sticks, you said you're not an author, but do you have any plans on writing anything?
I have 4 different projects that I have worked on and come to the conclusion that it's just not gonna happen.
Not without a lack of book. Okay, I'm not even gonna.
It's just not gonna. I already know where my weaknesses are. I excel at writing and you guys can, as authors, can attest to the processes. I excel at writing the big scenes, and I almost always get into that flow state that you mentioned about. Like mine isn't my characters talking to me. I'm watching my book like a movie.
Hmm.
and I
Yep.
can see it
Okay.
playing out, and I'm just typing what's happening. But that's only for the big scenes. Even if I have to write them out of order, an idea hits me, the movie plays, I type away, I might get 2,500, 4,000, whatever words down and be like, wow, that was amazing. But now I have to put in all the little slice of life filler quiet moments in between, and my brain goes,
Hmm.
Hmm.
nope. So yeah, that's where I just, unless I take a hammer to
You,
my forehead, it's not happening.
you've got all the big set pieces, but not the story that
Glues them
keeps
together.
them all
Push
together.
it
Yeah.
together.
But
All
It looks
chase
like you're
scenes.
still young enough. You got plenty of time.
I appreciate that you think so. Um, so what do we got? What do you got coming up? Next big projects coming out. That's what we're gonna, before Julie does her famous finishing bit. We'll ask
Okay.
our guests next big project. Ned, what to look out for, where they can best support you. We have your guys' socials playing and stuff, but go ahead and take it away, Rick. Give us your.
Okay. Yeah. So I just released book two, State of Five, The Window Splitters. When I wrote my first book, the plan was to get the book written and check it off my list of retirement plans and move on to other things. But I'm currently three-quarters of the way done through book five of this series and open to plan to finish it with book six. I checked with my editor last week, and we're looking to probably release book three in July, and then book four in December. And then by that time, book five should be done, and then and I've got the art, most of the art done for book six, which I'm hoping will finish the series.
Nice.
And Scott?
Well, my latest publication is The Sad Rains of Mars: New and Collected Stories, and that
Nice.
has a dozen short stories in it. 9 of them have been previously anthologized in various places, and 3 of them are only available in this collection. And then, but my current primary writing project, I've mentioned it a few times, is my novella for the 3rd volume of the Tales of the Weird World War series. Where people can find me, you list all our socials, but yeah, if people go to scott-pearson.com, that's where they'll find links to all my socials, links to buy my books, links to my blog, links to the podcast that I used to do with my daughter when she was younger. We did a podcast called Generations Geek. We did 65 episodes, and those are all available and are pretty fun. We had some great guests over the years. We had Andy Weir on just as he was becoming famous. And
So I have a comment to that. Um, I had when I released my book, um, I had somebody read it, and they were concerned that they were just finishing up Project Hail Mary, and said that they were concerned that my book wasn't going to measure up to it. I actually have a review on Amazon where he said he actually enjoyed my book better than Project Hail Mary.
nice.
So I was elated when talking about reviews. I was very elated to get that.
It was like we're always going to be ending off for chat since this is our first time, and for you guys, we're always going to be ending off these interviews with this. Next projects coming out and when, if we have a deadline, because I won't name names, but we all know there's some authors out there that we're hoping they don't die before they release their next book. Um,
Right.
so, thank you both for being here. Thank you both for your time
Thank
and
you.
for your books that you've put out and your stories you've created for the world. Go ahead, take it away, Julie.
Just one quick thing before we end out. Are either of you going to be appearing at any cons, signing events in the very near future? Or within the next, I would say before December?
I will be at the Shore Leave Convention. It's a kind of it's not specifically a Star Trek convention, but it's very Star Trek heavy. and that's in July, I think 9th, 10th, 11th, over the weekend there in Lancaster,
Right.
Pennsylvania. I've been a writer guest at that con for over about the last 20 years. I've been going. I haven't made it every single year, but it's a great con. A lot of great people come. They get actors and writer guests, and that'll be fun. So yeah, if anyone's out on the East Coast, think about coming to Shore Leaf.
Yeah, for me, so I'm doing a lot of book fairs in North Carolina. I'll be in Wilmington. Actually, Wilmington is going to be what is that? Atlanta, May 2nd. I'll be in Wilmington, and then I'll be in Raleigh and Charlotte in May as well. But I've been doing a lot of book fairs, meeting a lot of people, selling books, and learning how to talk to people, and it's just been a lot of fun.
It is
Well, I
great to
hope
meet
that one of
people.
these days we all get to cross paths with each other, because I
Yeah, that'd be
only can
fun.
do a couple a year because of the children. So I have to plan everything out very much accordingly. All right. Well, thank you guys so much for being here and being our guinea pigs and indulging us, because I know I said we would only take an hour of your time tonight, but we were having fun, so we just kind of kept it rolling.
Yes.
Yes, if
Yes.
Yeah,
And
anyone
this has been a
thanks. It
lot
was
of
great.
fun, and I appreciate it. Thank
if
you.
anyone saw me
Yeah,
grabbing
yeah.
my phone during, I know faux pas, but I was messaging Julie in the background going, "Hey, I forgot how long this was supposed to be." Uh, full
We just kept
transparency.
going.
And I can't
Yeah.
go to my own Discord chat on the computer because it will block the video feeds. So I was just like, I'm gonna
Oh,
Discord
geez.
on my phone. So,
Right.
Julie, take us away. I keep
All
pointing at
right,
you because you're over here on
everybody.
Discord,
Thank
but you're
you
down there.
so much for joining us tonight. Remember, we will be on for the Hold My Pen podcast tomorrow night, 7 p.m. Central, 8 p.m. Eastern. Adjust your times accordingly. Remember, do not add to the population. Do not subtract from the population. If you get your ass arrested, I'm not bailing you out, but depending on the reason, I might put money on your commissary. Otherwise, be brave, be bold, but always stay humble. We will see you tomorrow night. Same bad time, same bad channel. Bye!
See ya.
Bye.